Tonight, Fort Smith City directors took up several items tied to Parrot Island Waterpark. It comes as in January, directors approved allocating $2.4 million to install the new water slides that were purchased back in 2024. 5 News reporter Lauren Spencer was at that meeting and shows us how, despite strong pushback from residents, directors are moving forward.
Another contentious night at the Blue Lion, where directors approved bids for Parrot Island Waterpark and locked in management for the upcoming season. Directors voted to accept 2 new bids totaling more than $2.4 million to move the waterslide project forward. One contract worth just over $1.7 million will cover site work, concrete, and structural components. The second, just over $664,000, will go towards plumbing, pumps, and pool systems. City leaders say this step is necessary to complete the project.
Rather than them just sitting on the ground, we decided, or the board decided tonight, to have the slides constructed and then have the pool built as well.
The board also approved an agreement with American Resort Management, or ARM, to operate the park for the 2026 season.
We know that there's a tight window for this operating season, so if we were to transition companies, it'd be very difficult.
But during public comment, every speaker spoke against these measures. Some residents say the city is taking on too much responsibility while the county still owns part of the park.
I think any work or any construction on these water slides needs to halt. We should not bear the full responsibility when we only own half the park.
Others saying they don't feel heard by those elected.
They want to be able to trust. They want things to be different. We don't have the transparency, and we still really, at this point, don't even know how the process was laid out.
And Director Christina Katsavis also questioning how they got here.
I think this is a slap in the face to the people we're supposed to represent.
City leaders say they've taken steps to address these concerns, including moving to a competitive bidding process. The city also says moving forward, things between the city and the county will be split evenly.
All revenue and all costs going forward will be split 50-50.
The city says the over $273,000 remaining dollars will go towards third-party inspections and other site improvements. In Fort Smith, covering news where you live, Lauren Spencer, 5 News.
All right, Lauren, thanks. Meanwhile, a decision on appointing a Sebastian County interim sheriff will have to wait. The quorum court tonight put off making that decision. Captain Philip Peavyhouse is in line to be appointed interim sheriff starting April 1st. He would take over for Hobie Runyon, whose last day is set for March 31st. Peavyhouse would serve until the end of the year, at which point Wyatt McIntyre will begin his elected term. We're hearing more reaction after a federal court blocked the controversial Arkansas law requiring the 10 Commandments be displayed in public classrooms statewide. A judge ruled there is no justifiable reason for the 10 Commandments to be displayed. However, yesterday's order only covers 6 districts in the state. Fayetteville, Bentonville, Springdale, Siloam Springs are 4 of them. We asked a local attorney his thoughts as the state attorney general's office says it's going to appeal.
The judge was pretty clear on it, and I think the law is incredibly clear on it. So I don't even know if a court's going to take up the issue, given it's pretty black and white.
It is unclear whether the rest of the state will have to comply with the law. Posters are still hanging up at the University of Arkansas. They told us they are still required to display donated posters. Meanwhile, the Arkansas Department of Human Services is planning a summer program to get people ready for new work requirements for Medicaid recipients. A new state law matching federal requirements last year goes into effect at the start of next year. It requires Medicaid recipients to work 80 hours a month unless they are in school. There's also exceptions for caregivers, people with disabilities, disabled veterans, and those who are pregnant, but not for one specific group, people living with HIV.
Medicaid is just so important for people living with HIV. Around 40% of people with HIV in the United States get their health care through Medicaid. That's what's keeping them alive.
DHS plans to launch a new website this summer with information about the work requirements and who qualifies for exemptions. We first told you about this last Friday. A Department of Commerce shutdown from earlier this year has forced several state workers into furlough for multiple months. And tonight, we've learned more employees are losing their jobs. 17 employees, in fact, at the Arkansas Division of Services for the Blind are being cut, along with 10 from the Division of Workforce Services. Both of these divisions are housed under the Federal Commerce Department. Commerce Secretary Hugh McDonald said staff reductions come because of budgetary constraints. A report on the staffing change is set to be given at a state Capitol subcommittee meeting tomorrow. At the U.S. Capitol, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton introducing a bill that would revoke naturalized citizenship in some cases. The bill would add any felony conviction that happened before, during, or after naturalization as grounds for revoking citizenship. Under the proposed bill, denaturalization proceedings could start at any point after a person gets their citizenship. Full bill is available to read on our website at 5newsonline.com. At the Oklahoma State Capitol, protest held after federal immigration officials took a teenager from Enid into custody. 18-year-old Juan Diego was preparing for spring break when his attorney says he was pulled over for speeding, leading to an ICE hold. Organizers say they will continue pushing for his release.
He's a senior at Enid High School. He's 18 years old. He was preparing for his spring break when he was detained by ICE. He's here seeking asylum, meaning that where he comes from is a dangerous place, and so, what has happened to him isn't right.
The teen's attorney says federal habeas corpus petition has been filed asking that he stay in Oklahoma with his family instead of being taken to an ICE facility in Texas. President Trump says today NATO allies have rejected his calls for military assistance in getting oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran is now blocking while the war continues. Erica Brown reports this comes as Democratic lawmakers are pushing for an explanation as to what the president's strategy is for the war and how the U.S. plans to sustain this conflict.
While hosting Ireland's leader at the White House Tuesday, President Trump expressed disappointment with NATO allies refusing his request to help oil tankers travel through the Strait of Hormuz as the blockage by Iran continues to drive up oil prices.
I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake, and I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test.
And as the conflict continues with missile and drone attacks across the Middle East, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad was targeted with strikes Tuesday, and Israel claimed responsibility for the deaths of 2 senior Iranian officials, including Iran's security chief, Ali Larijani. On Capitol Hill, some lawmakers are pushing the White House for more information on the military strategy for the war.
What we've asked for is the president to come to Congress to show us a plan.
I urge the Department of Defense and the administration to come up with a plan to Congress as how they can sustain not only this war, but any future war.
House Speaker Mike Johnson defended the military operation.
We have taken out an enemy that was seeking to do us harm and wipe Israel off the map, and that's a good thing.
Also Tuesday, the Trump administration's director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, resigned over the war in Iran, saying in a statement Iran, quote, posed no imminent threat to our nation. The move sparked pushback from President Trump.
It's a good thing that he's out because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was.
Kent's resignation is effective immediately. Erica Brown, CBS News, Washington.
The Pentagon announced U.S. forces successfully used 5,000-pound munitions on Iranian missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian anti-ship cruise missiles in these sites posed a risk to international shipping in the strait. We continue to track how gas prices are being affected in Arkansas because of this war. Here's a look at today's prices. They rose another 3 cents today to $3.28 a gallon. The national average sits at $3.79. That's up 7 cents just from yesterday. That's now 3/4 away from the most expensive gallon price ever, which was, by the way, in 2022. We've also learned today one of the U.S. service members who died during the conflict in Iran has connections to Oklahoma. Oklahoma State University confirmed Air Force Major John Klinner was one of 6 crew members who died in the refueling accident this month in the Middle East. Klinner attended OSU and graduated from their Master's in Business Administration program last year. He served for 8 years with the Air Force and had just been promoted to major in January. He leaves behind a wife and 3 children, including 7-month-old twins.